is moving into that area. Nakona, the storm is still located just over you, and there's still some quite strong winds, even rotation, making its way closer to Montague. And so some pretty nasty storms are moving into the area. And if you're in Nakona, you need to be in shelter. The next area down the line, because this is pretty much sticking with its track directly east. If you're in Bonita, you need to be in shelter right now just because this is a fairly concerning storm. And it looks like they updated the southern Montague tornado warning, and that is for almost 1.5 inch hail there as well. No confirmations, but still, it is a concerning storm nonetheless. And okay, there's another area here. So if you're in Montague, downtown Montague, make sure that you're seeking shelter just because that is still an area of rotation that is fairly concerning. Right now, the rotation does not appear prominent for the buoy area. You're still in a warning. You still need to be in shelter just because sometimes these things like to wobble. But if you're in downtown Montague, if you're in downtown Bonita, both of these areas need to be in their shelters now just because there is the potential for a tornado with both of these storms where you see these brighter colors. The first location is located, that is right over Highway 82. That could be a little rotation ahead of the bigger one, which is basically riding Highway 82 right now. And then the second area of rotation is located just immediately west of Montague, and that is approaching Highway 59. So we're watching these two severe storms. Here's our hail core tracker. In addition to that, Montague needs to be ready for ping pong ball to golf ball sized hail. Same with Nakona. And then in addition to that storm, there is no warning for our coverage area yet, but Newport, Cundiff, Chico, Sunset, get ready. Baseball sized hail is occurring with this storm located over Newport, and tennis balls and 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts are what the Weather Service in Norman are warning this for before it crosses over into our area. I'm going to go ahead and just say because of the updraft, we're still probably looking at 70-mile-per-hour winds and definitely tennis ball to baseball sized hail kind of mixed in. And in addition to that, there really isn't a lot of rotation with it yet, but it's showing some characteristics with a tail feature that we need to be watching. If that starts to rotate, that could very well be another tornadic risk. And if not, that would definitely maintain its large hail presentation. We're gonna go to these storms to the south real quick. We're not overlooking the ones to the north. If you are in Montague and if you are in where is it? If you're in Bonita and in Montague, you need to be in shelter now. But real quickly, going to our friends to the south, this is Comanche County, Van Dyke, Gustine. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If you live in these areas and I'm not, feel free to correct me. But the Comanche, Erath, and Hamilton storms, these are fairly nasty. Now, the one that is in northern Comanche County, that had a tornado with it earlier, but right now, no tornado warnings. In fact, that rotation area has pretty well died off. But the one that is near Pretty, that may be producing up to 2-inch hail, and that we're exceeding golf balls with that one. So this is approaching Hamilton County. This is just right outside of our coverage area, but Pottsville, get ready. 2-inch hail is on the way, in addition to very heavy rain and frequent lightning. All right, let's go back to the Frederick radar site. Let's go up to these ones to the north again, and we're starting to get a lower level lock here with the rotation. Bonita, it is right just to your west, and if you're in Montague, that rotation is located right over Montague now. So if you're in Montague, you're probably getting that potential developing tornado, if not already on the ground, moving into that area. So make sure that you're in shelter immediately. And Bonita, you need to be in shelter too, just because this is a very dangerous storm with the potential for a tornado. In addition to that, we'll go back to our hail core trackers. Both storms are capable of up to 2-inch hail. So let's zoom out real quick and just answer the questions for people watching here in the metro. Are we going to get hit by these tornadoes or anything? Just to lower the fears, there are better conditions along the Red River for that tornadic activity. Now, some of these, if they keep their strength, could eventually make their way into portions of the area. We can't say if there's going to be a tornado with it, but for people here in the immediate metro, we don't have any sort of watches or anything like that for our area in the immediate 4 DFW counties. That doesn't mean that we're not going to see anything. It's just that the watch areas have a greater potential for it. Of course, we're keeping an eye on this. Make sure that you download the free Weather 225 mobile app, just because we'll send out all these alerts. And as I'm saying that, the National Weather Service has went ahead and extended that tornado watch in effect until 9 p.m., and it now includes Fannin and Grayson counties. So 2 more of our Red River counties are extended into the tornado watch. I'm assuming that also means that Norman is issuing a tornado watch for portions of southern Oklahoma there as well. So we're going to also be watching to see if they issue any sort of watch for the DFW area. And it looks like they're just going to continue the counties to the west in that severe thunderstorm watch, but also kind of just wrap this around southern DFW into central Texas for these storms that are in Comanche County. So you'll start to see those plotted here in just a second. Let's go back up to the north for the storm in Bonita. And this is from the Fort Worth site. Still seeing signs of rotation with both. Let's go back to Frederick. And I apologize if we're bouncing all over the place. We're just trying to get a better look at this just because it is so far away from the radar. We're going to have trouble seeing this as well as we would if it was closer to the surface. Yeah, we're not probably going to see it from there. Let's go back to reflectivity. And if you look, it looks like the hail core is starting to come up with that one as well. Yeah, Montague County, definitely seeing that. If you're in the city of Montague, and unfortunately the radar is not in a mode where we get faster updates. The radar is updating every 5 minutes or so. If you're in Montague, I think that the hail core might be just moving into that area. We're talking up to 2-inch hail is possible with that. So we're talking golf ball sized hail might be moving into the community of Montague. Let's also see what that update was. Okay, and there we go. The one that we're talking about in Newport, that one is now warned for Wise and Jack County. And Weather Service is saying ping pong ball sized hail. I'm going to go ahead and continue to say that this is likely maybe golf ball, not quite the baseball that we're seeing earlier, and I'll show you why. Notice how the storm is not as intense looking as it was just a little bit ago. So the hail core may be coming down some. I would still say that there could be some tennis balls mixed in, but we're likely looking at golf balls now and not quite what we were seeing here just a little bit ago with that very intense hail core. It's still there, and it is still a very big hail core. So if you're in Newport, you are probably getting hammered by some pretty intense hail activity right now. But even with that last scan, notice the hail core is not as apparent and as concerning looking on reflectivity as it was just a little bit ago. So we're going to post the new alert onto our app, and if you haven't already, make sure that you download the free Weather 225 mobile app today on Google Play, Apple Store. You can also find our streaming on Amazon Fire TV. Severe thunderstorm warning. And this is for Jack and Jack Wise in Montague County. All right, now I apologize for the quick little break in silence there. Real quick, we're just posting this to our app. I am managing all of these things at once, so we're sending that out on the app. And let's also inspect. We have a new update from the Weather Service, and I think that is for a new severe thunderstorm warning for just Montague County as well, and that's for ping pong ball sized hail. Let's see, what is that until 8:15? Okay, so they're updating that one. Also, new severe thunderstorm warning for Comanche County, and that is just for that hailstorm down to the south there as well. So again, if you're in Bonita, there is still a signature up there to the north that is moving into your area. Next in line would probably be between Bonita and St. Joe. Now, St. Joe is not in a warning yet, but notice, this is why we keep a very close eye on these storms, is we said they tend to wobble, and sometimes they will deviate their path. Notice how this was north of Nocona, and the rotation looks like it kind of went directly to the east and now is shifting a little bit further to the south than it was before. So just a heads up to St. Joe, no warning yet, but there could be some quite strong winds moving into that area, maybe a spin-up tornado there as well, as this is not really your classic supercell, but rather there could be a few spin-up tornadoes occurring with this. So definitely if you're in Bonita, make sure that you're seeking shelter just because we have that rotation area there. There's another one just south of Montague. Let's go back to the Fort Worth site and see if we can get a better view since this is moving closer into that area. And there's still a rotation area near Bonita, and there's still one near Montague. All right, so we're keeping a very close eye on these two. We wanted to remain on air with these just because we know, and there's a lot of viewers that will tell us this, we cover these areas that there typically isn't a whole lot of coverage just because when there's severe weather in the metro, that will usually be full priority. There's also whenever there's storms outside of the metro, but it's a busy time for other programming and stuff with a lot of networks. These areas don't get as much coverage either. So we know that there's kind of a gap in coverage in addition to the radar gap up there. We want to make sure that our friends and family up to the north are just as covered as we are here in the DFW Metroplex. So if you're tuning into this on our streaming and you're wondering, is this for DFW? No. The answer is no. We don't have storms in Dallas, in Fort Worth. There's some light rain, but we're covering these to the north just because, like we said, we have a lot of viewers up here. We want to make sure that they're 100% covered as well. So we're watching on YouTube, Amazon Fire TV. You can also find us, like we said, here on Facebook Live. So we're watching these. And I'm also going to be looking at some of the newest data coming in with the latest model projections. For those who don't know, there is a short-range model that we use just about every severe weather day. It does a fairly good job. It's called the HRRR. This is the North American short-range model. It updates every hour. It gives us an idea of what could happen. It's been fairly good with this system so far. For those asking if storms are going to impact DFW, as it is now, there is no watch for DFW, but we're watching as these storms make their way into the area. They will be on a weakening trend, but that doesn't mean that we are in the 100% clear. As you can see, there's storms moving southeast into northern parts of the area shortly, and then there's storms to the south moving northeast. So we have two areas of storms that could come close to the area. Some of them may maintain their strength and move into North Texas. It's just one of those things that you need to be alert regardless of if there's a watch or not. There's a chance we see storms in the metro. There's a chance that we see these weaken and there's no warnings for our area at all. It's just something we're going to be watching. So we're keeping a close eye on it. Storms will be approaching the metro. It's just a question of whether or not they're strong or maintain their severe status as they make their way into the area. But right now, there's no tornado watches or severe thunderstorm watches for the immediate 4 DFW counties that include McKinney, Frisco, Denton, Aubrey, Pilot Point, Louisville, Fort Worth, Crowley, Mansfield, Dallas, DeSoto, those areas. But they did extend the tornado watch for 2 of our counties to the north along the Red River, and then a severe thunderstorm watch for our southern counties just south of I-20, where we see these storms that are most likely going to tread through those areas over the next couple of hours, where there is some good conditions for storms in both of these little pockets. So let's go back to velocity. And I'm probably going to go back to the Frederick site just to continue to watch this. And the immediate area of concern for both is immediately to the south and east of Montague. Montague is probably getting hit by some winds behind the storm. We call that rear flank downdraft if the rotation was occurring in that area. Same with Bonita. Bonita is still an area of rotation in that area, but also north of St. Joe, we're seeing that rotation occurring as well. And we're also noticing, I'll put this back into reflectivity, this is taking on more of a east, now southeast movement just about with that rotation area. So we might see this warning for the northern part adjusted here if it continues to maintain its strength. The one to the south, notice that is not as alarming as it was earlier when this was just to the west of Newport. Notice the black and gray colors with that almost hook feature just west of Newport. That's where this was likely producing tennis ball, maybe baseball sized hail. But that storm has dramatically weakened, and this is turning from more of a area of broken supercells into more of a line segment. So that's some good news for the hail portion of some of these storms where it's starting to weaken. These storms are merging. Don't let your guard down, though. There is still some pretty significant hail cores with these, but we're not seeing that baseball-sized hail occurring with these storms as they're starting to merge. We're seeing more of a golf ball, maybe smaller tennis ball size with these. Still, that is damaging hail, but we're not seeing these rogue supercells that are going to be producing that for a long period of time. These are probably going to go through stages, if you will, over the next little bit. The most concerning hail core is the one located just south of Montague, and that one, in my opinion, may very well be producing golf ball sized hail. The storm also rotation wise is showing signs of strengthening, at least from the Frederick site, and we're starting to see a little inflow notch there as well. So this one, like we mentioned, might be going through a cycling phase. We'll be watching that. But in addition to the rotation for a tornado threat, another thing that a lot of viewers may not know is when we're looking at rotation with some of these updrafts with hailstorms, yes, there is a tornado threat with rotation with some storms, but a lot of the times you'll see these transition over into a more broad rotation, and that means there is a stronger updraft holding hailstones in the atmosphere for a lot longer, meaning larger hail. So sometimes when you see storms with rotation, that's also indicative of a significant hail core developing a lot there as well. So that's another thing that we're watching when we see these big hailstorms. Is we're going to be watching those for a big hail risk as well. So, good news is we're not seeing any sort of immediate damage reports. Let's check. I haven't logged into this to see. We're going to log into our little chat session. Nope, that's not the right one. Let's see if we have any reports from any sort of ham radio operators. There we go. Okay, so Mullins, Mills County, that's outside of our coverage area. Those are all storms to the south. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any reports. There's a lot of reports of hail coming out to the south in Mills County, of quarter-sized hail to 2-inch sized hail, but that is outside of our coverage area. But fortunately, I'm not seeing any sort of damage reports with the ones to the north. Now, that could change as time goes on and these storms pass through. But the good news at the moment is we're not seeing any sort of damage. And the thing that concerned us the most is typically when you see these brighter, more concerning signatures that far out from the radar, that's indicative of there could be a tornado developing or occurring in these northern counties. So, again, this is kind of highlighting there is a need. We need a radar along the Red River for better readings and better signatures this far out, because this area unfortunately is sandwiched between two pretty nasty radar gaps where we get a reading, it's usable, but we're not getting more of a surface based reading that would give us a lot better information. So I also want to look at just how tall these storms are just for a hail perspective. And this is a tool that we call Enhanced Echo Tops. This is the storm scanning just how tall the updrafts and the storms are. And we're approaching, that is about 55,000 feet. So this is a pretty major storm. That's also showing me that hail core might be ramping up. So we're approaching 2-inch, maybe 2.5-inch hail with this storm in Montague County. And this is going to be moving further to the east. And I believe it's moving at 35 miles an hour. So not a fast-moving storm, but is a dangerous storm with the potential for damaging large hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and potentially a spin-up tornado with it as well. Let's go back to that one near Newport. And that hail core is starting to come back up there as well. And that may very well be producing, let's say, golf ball sized hail. Just blanket warning wise across this, these are all going to be capable of up to golf ball sized hail from what I'm seeing. So every one of these storms, all the way from Bonita down to Newport, golf ball sized hail. Some of these more southern storms near Montague and Newport may start to see larger hail developing shortly, but just overall, all of these are going to be capable of up to 2-inch hail. So that's around golf ball size, maybe even slightly bigger. So we still have two little areas of rotation that we're watching. It's not as defined as it was earlier. I am going to be curious if there is any sort of damage findings from the one that was near Nocona. And I'll show you why. Notice just how bright and close together this was when it was over Nocona. And we were watching this before there was even a warning to it. And then it kind of just broadened out, and that's some good news there. Hopefully we'll start to see these warnings drop for tornadoes and transition over to more of a severe thunderstorm risk. Because hail is still considerable, and so are the winds, but we're not going to be dealing with a damaging tornado. So we're going to move from one hazard over to another here shortly if these continue to weaken. So let's go back. I'm going to see if I can see if there's any reports coming in. Okay, I'll put that on. Damage threat considerable for the Comanche storm. That is for the threat of 2-inch hail. Okay, so the ones down to the south, we'll quickly go back to that. We don't want to forget our neighbors to the south. But the reason we haven't been covering these as often as the ones to the north is because there is a tornado warning for two of those, and that one actually looks pretty concerning. Let's see if that's a hail spike or a rotation. This might very well be producing up to tennis ball size hail near Pottsville. And if you were watching from this area earlier and we called this out, we were saying that this one that was in the county that we don't cover was going to be moving in here shortly. We're going to be watching. There's a little hook to it, and maybe some rotation. Let's go to this radar site to the south of that. No, that's not going to be a good reading. Let's go to Abilene. Yeah, and there's a little rotation with that. So Pottsville, we're going to be watching that here carefully as well. So that might start to develop some rotation to it here shortly. There's rotation occurring. That is either from a very large hail core, but the thing with these storms, just to explain, rotation starts from the upper levels of the storm and it makes its way down to the surface. There's sometimes common misconceptions that rotation happens at the very bottom of the storm and then rotation quickly occurs and then it starts rotating the entire storm. That's not the case. Many storm chasers will tell you, and if you've seen a rotating storm in person, you'll notice the entire cloud base aloft will start spinning, and then that translates all the way to the ground. So when we see these elevated rotation areas, we watch those carefully because there could be the potential that elevated rotation, if it continues to get its act together and makes its way further and further towards the ground, that's when you start to get the lower level rotation, which is what causes tornadoes to occur. And I would love to see if there's any sort of chasers in that area to let me see the structure of that storm. But right now it doesn't look like we have anything up there. Okay, and some very, very good news. I was mentioning this just a second ago. It looked like that rotation was not as concerning with these storms, and we were transitioning over from a tornado to severe weather risk. The Weather Service is in agreement, and they went ahead and dropped the tornado warnings with the Montague County storms, so that's some very good news there. But down the line, for Thackerville, Gainesville, Munster, Maryville, Leo, and Era, these storms are going to be moving into your area. We very well may see a severe thunderstorm warning for your areas issued here shortly as these storms are moving into the area. And there's still a little bit of rotation embedded with these, but it is not as concerning as it was just a little bit ago. But that is telling me also that there is definitely a hail core maintaining with this that could be producing up to golf ball sized hail. So we have two areas right here. We're going to go back to this one near Hamilton just because that one, like we said, that one is still concerning enough to keep an eye on. So we're going to kind of be bouncing back and forth. Let's see, new update just came in. Okay, that's just 1 inch for there. And let's go back to the one to the north. I want to go back to the Frederick site just for better translation. Okay, so we're starting to see some rotation trying to come back near St. Joe. Let's go back to the reflectivity. And you can kind of see just near Munster, there's a little bit of inflow feeding into this little mouth feature that we're seeing kind of at the leading edge of the storm south of Munster. So we're also seeing some wrapping around reflectivity that would need to be watched. But there is some strong rotation aloft. And when I'm saying strong, it doesn't mean that there's a tornado, but that is an area that we're going to be watching. Like we saw earlier, and we saw those brighter colors kind of popping back up with the scans right before it reached tornadic levels. This is something we're going to have to be watching there again. There could be a spin up trying to occur. And let's go to the Fort Worth site. And still, there's a little bit of a notch near Munster and another one further to the south. And like we said, this is not as concerning as it was earlier, but it's something to watch just because this storm did that earlier, where it looked like it started to spike up and then we reached tornadic levels again. Just to be on the safe side, make sure that you're in a sturdy structure, especially if you're in Marysville and Munster, where you see these two little areas of rotation. And in addition to that rotation, I'm also noticing those rotation areas are also showing us that the hail core is starting to come up with those there as well. So if you're in Marysville, St. Joe, Montague, two big hail cores, these are going to be capable of up to 2-inch hail. In fact, the National Weather Service just issued that severe thunderstorm warning. Let's see, they issued it for 1.25-inch hail, so that's half dollar size. But it wouldn't surprise me if maybe some ping pong ball size hail's gonna occur with those as well. Let's bounce back to the south, and let's go to the one in Pottsville, and we're still seeing that little, that little inflow notch right there. And it's still a broad area of rotation, but it's still something to watch. That broad area of rotation also is indicative just that there is a strong enough updraft with this that it's going to be maintaining its strong hail core. Ooh, and I tell you what, that is a very, very large hail core. There could easily be some tennis balls mixed in with golf ball, ping pong ball, half dollar. There's going to be a myriad of sizes falling with this storm, but I think the largest that's going to be falling is going to be tennis ball. So if you're in Pottsville, get ready. This is probably approaching tennis ball sized hail with that storm. We're seeing this little notch feature, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say this one is probably the biggest, most concerning hail core that we're seeing. Hamilton, make sure that you're going to be seeking shelter inside, away from doors and windows, just because that is not necessarily a tornadic threat that we're watching here. That updraft is probably maintaining tennis ball, maybe even some baseballs mixed in there as well, just because I'll show you. Let's go back in time a little bit. That hail core, it has maintained its strength, but it just continues to maintain its large size there as well. In fact, let's actually look at echo tops, and the updraft to that is almost 54,000 feet up. So, you know, this is a concerning hailstorm. This one might easily be approaching baseball sized with the hail. Let's see. So right now, just blanket wise across these warnings, except for that one in Hamilton County, reading another thing coming on. Just blanket wise, for all the storms along the Red River, ping pong ball size hail is possible with these, in addition to 60-mile-per-hour winds. We're not seeing as strong of rotation as we was earlier. In fact, it's showing signs that it's trying to come back to life a little bit, but then the next scan looks like it's dying off. Something to watch, just because it's approaching an environment that is basically untapped by any storms, and we have that extended tornado watch for the Red River counties here until 9 o'clock. That's around the next hour or so. To the south, we have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect until midnight. That is where we're going to be watching these storms in central Texas. These are likely going to track basically in the environment that they're in now, further to the east through our southern counties over the next couple of hours. These are going to be posing a 2 to 2.5, maybe even 3-inch hail risk over the next couple of hours, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, and potentially a spin-up tornado. In addition, some of these storms may make their way close to the area. We're going to be watching DFW, the exact 4 counties that DFW sits in. There is no watches for Denton, Collin, Tarrant, and Dallas County. There's, in fact, no watches for Kaufman, Rockwall, Johnson, and Ellis counties. But that doesn't mean that storms will not reach those areas. These storms are going to come close to the Metroplex. It's just a question of whether or not they're going to maintain their strength once they enter the DFW area, just because some of these are going to be in a weakening trend. So DFW could see storms. DFW could see just thunderstorms in general. No severe activity. There's a chance that there's some strong to severe storms in the area later. It's just something to watch, and we want you to be aware of. So make sure that you download that free Weather 225 mobile app this evening. It has all the information you need, and we'll send out those push notifications when alerts are issued. But right now, we've been live for about an hour because we were covering these tornado warnings to the north before there was even a warning. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. So thank you for tuning in to this live weather coverage. And make sure that you share this with your friends and family and download our app. Not to brag about Weather 225, but we have some of the most exclusive, most detailed forecasts, severe weather-wise, for the area with our app. There's a lot of people that have questions about certain aspects of severe weather, and that's why we put our Severe HQ together. It has all of our severe weather forecasts condensed into one. Timing, sometimes if there's a lot of activity, we'll have Futurecast radar on. Individual risks, we have an exclusive hail risk that you won't see anywhere else in North Texas, and we have all of that condensed into one place. There's a million tools on the app, so make sure you download on Google and the Apple App Store. And then even with our coverage, we were watching these storms behind the scenes. We saw that these were starting to rotate before there was even a warning, and we were live on air with these 10 minutes before there was even a warning with some of these as well. So make sure that you follow all of our media, share our posts, share everything that we have, and make sure that you download that free Weather 225 mobile app today for some of the best weather information you'll find here in North Texas. So going to take a quick break, and if anything else happens, we will come back live. Thank you for tuning in.